All right, welcome back. As promised, we're going to have that conversation on what role you play in terms of making sure that we achieve our sustainable development goals. Those are the SDGs. Just a quick reminder of some of those SDGs to keep the conversation going before I introduce you to my panel this morning. No poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation. Number 7, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry innovation and infrastructure, reduce inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, very big one, life below water, life on land, peace and justice on strong institutions, partnerships to achieve the goal. So those are about 17 of them. We're going to take a look at some of the most interesting ones, or rather the ones, because we can all do all of them in about an hour. But allow me to introduce my panel. Of course, as you're watching from home, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Make sure you tweet us using the hashtag We Can Express at KTN News, at Zinzi_K. My guest this morning, allow me to introduce them. They are from Strathmore University. They are part of ISEC, if you've heard of them. But really, let me give you more details on them. This is Diana Wakongo, who is the organizing committee president for the Youth Speak Forum, which happened this week, where young people came to discuss these key issues. Next to Diana is Lesalon Saitaga, who is the local chapter vice president and vice president branding. And next to him is Jerry Mukira, who is the local chapter president of Elect ISEC in Strathmore. So good morning, guys. Good morning. So all of you are people in ISEC. ISECers, is that's what the term we call it?
Yes.
From Strathmore University.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming in this morning and helping lead this conversation. Let me begin with you, Jerry, and that's the issue of how young people, are we as young people aware of these development goals, or do we just choose to ignore them subconsciously or unconsciously knowing? Are we paying enough attention?
I think that there are two ways to look at it, because there are those who do not understand that there was a shift from the Millennial Development Goals to the Sustainable Development Goals, while there are those who understand that we have Sustainable Development Goals. However, they know a few of them but do not know what to do after that. So besides knowing that, yes, there's climate action, quality education, what's more? What are you supposed to do in order to meet the targets under each goal?
Right. Diana, do you feel as if young people, university students, the younger generation are paying attention to the SDGs?
Just as she said, people know about them, but most times you don't know how to go about it after knowing about them. You, many a times that you're just in the flow, but you're not very sure about how to go about making the change that will help with the Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay, and we'll come to that, how we can do that. Let's learn your thoughts on the issue of young people paying attention to the SDGs.
I believe that most people, if in the universities, the Sustainable Development Goals are coming up because most people are aware of them. But the issue now is what to do after. People are not taking up the role of bettering the society.
Right. So we know the SDGs, we can cram them, but the whole point is implementation. And Diana, you're the one who really touched on that. So I'm a university student, or I'm a young person, mid-30s or mid-20s. I know the development goals, ending poverty, zero hunger, etc. But what role do I have to play? How can we then implement?
One thing, I'll quote Peter Moll, who was one of the speakers yesterday.
Right.
He said that we shouldn't think about being leaders of tomorrow, because that postpones starting to develop the country. So it's time to start now. Develop the Sustainable Development Goals to make sure that by 2030 they are realized. Not always saying that I'm the leader of tomorrow. So when you get an opportunity to implement the Sustainable Development Goals, take it. Start from there. Don't just always say, when someone tells you you're the leader of tomorrow, you say, no, I will start now for tomorrow to be better.
So, Njeri, how do we do that? Do I have to find, for example, a children's home that I can, within my community, that I can go and work with to help end, for example, poverty, hunger? How do we go about that then?
There are different ways to go about it. And Honestly, I believe it starts with the smallest things. Yes, you can take time off your weekend, spend an hour or two, go to a children's home, go to a church and help out, go to a public school, teach them a thing or two. By doing that, you will have acted. You won't just know the SDGs, but you will be working towards accomplishing or achieving the target under each SDG. And as you heard, we had our Youth Speak Forum yesterday, and our theme was inspire, engage, and act. So yesterday, we had several speakers speaking to us and we were inspired. But now we need to come together and come up with solutions once we've heard and we've been given the knowledge in order to engage. And after that, that's how we come up with projects in order to act on them so that it's sustainable and long-term.
But let's learn. The thing is that there's so many organizations, there's so many startups, there's so many solutions, there's so many forums that happen not only in Kenya but across the world. But how can we move it from just forums, from just talk, from just paper, from it looking so good on paper to it now being manifested on the ground?
I am echoing one of the speakers yesterday, Peter Moll again, who is the CEO of Stand Up Shout Out. He saw an opportunity and he took it. It's as simple as that. You don't need to have you don't always need to have you don't always need to have the backstory for you to act. Like she said, you just need to take it up and find now the issue is always coming up with a sustainable program, because yes, you fed the child once, but what after that? Is he or she going to be able to, get a meal every day? Are they going to be able to fend for themselves rather than wait for other people? So the issue is always coming up with a solution that is sustainable.
I like that. Yes. I like that. Okay. Let's take a look at one of them. Let's streamline them because there are about 17 of them. Let's take a look at one. Poverty. Eradicating poverty. And really, the whole point of this is that we want to eradicate poverty, and that's the line of people living on $1.25 a day. Diana, do you think this is doable when our leaders go to New York on the UN Assembly podium and they talk about eradicating poverty? Is this doable?
It really is, because one of the biggest things people say that Africa has talent. People have talent, and one of the things that we need to realize as Kenyans is that we can use our talent to actually create our sustainability, be able to earn from what you can do with your own hands. You don't have to go to school, because not everyone can go to school. But with that talent that you have, you eradicate your own poverty, the poverty of your generations. So at the end of it all, that's already creating sustainability for your own generation. So I'd say, yes, eradication of poverty is very, very possible.
Jerry, but it all comes down to you as an individual, because we cannot always want Serikali or the UN or the World Bank to come and help us. At the end of the day, even though that's a big goal that as the human race we're working towards to, at the end of the day, it streams down to Njeri, it streams down to Diana, it streams down to us, and saying, I will choose to use my skills in a certain place in order to eradicate poverty, not only for myself, but for my family. And that effect has a bigger effect on the community. Your thoughts?
That's very true. And we have 4 qualities in ISEC, one of them being self-aware. So you first need to look intrinsically and figure out who you are as an individual. And after that, and after identifying what your so-called purpose is, will you be able to now resonate and drive this or push this into other activities. So before going into the UN or all these other forums or organizations, as you've said, you first have to soul search within yourself, figure out what it is you're good at and what impact or change it is that you as an individual want to make before you can join any association or group.
And it's all matters of empowering the lower class and the lower economic class, and by doing so, one of these ways is making sure that they have access to natural resources, education, etc. So it's a matter of empowering them. Lesalon, what do you think in terms of, I would love to hear your thoughts, when it comes to matters, making sure that natural resources, and the thing is, Africa as a continent, we really have a lot of resources, but you find it's only the creme de la creme of the society who are able to tap into this, and the majority of the population are the ones who are in debt and poverty, right? How can governments, or how can institutions, or how can even we as individuals make sure that, hey, we're also saying that we want part of this cake?
I think it can be accomplished if we share ideas. So if you, as a person, if you're not able to access the resources that you may need, I believe that the person next to you, because no one is ever alone, the person next to you might have the connection or might have the drive, the same drive as you, and you can come together. So it's not, for bettering the society, it's not a matter of individual people. It's not a matter of an individual person, but everyone as a whole. So I believe that if we come together, if we cooperate, if we decide to work together, it is attainable, because yeah, unity will bring us together. Yes,
I like that. All right, let's head over to zero hunger. One of the key ways is agriculture, agribusiness. Young people are paying, well, some young people are paying attention to agribusiness. Jerry, if you're told to go to a farm today, would you go to a farm today? But there's someone, maybe Diana would see agribusiness is the way to go. It's not only a source of income for me, but I'm also feeding the nation. Let's talk about zero hunger as Africans. We have land, that is no doubt. Our weather is pretty good despite climate change and the changes that we're seeing. Zero hunger, do you have confidence that we can eradicate it as well?
Yes. One thing, I feel like government institutions should invest in agriculture. All of us, we've gone through primary school. We are always told that one of the biggest economic activities for us as Kenyans is agriculture. So if there is the investing of it by the government, by institutions, definitely zero hunger would not be there anymore.
But Jerry, you tell someone to go, you tell our generation to go to the farm and they're like, no, not my thing. So how are we going to do that? How are we going to start changing mentality, the mind shift of Africans really? Not even just Kenyans, as Africans. How are we going to change that mind shift as young Africans, where you know that I can go, I don't even have to go to the shamba to get my hands dirty. I just need to employ 1 or 2 people to make sure that my onions are growing well. But we have that mentality of working in a farm is not my thing. How do we change? How do we begin to change that mentality, that attitude towards agribusiness, if we are truly, as Africans and young people, going to change zero hunger?
Severally, we've heard that knowledge is power, but what people don't understand is you have to be well informed, because, as you've said, most youth, when they think about agriculture, it all comes down to going to a farm to actually get your hands dirty. However, they do not know that there are actually alternative ways of going about this, such that you can, like you said, employ someone else to go to the farm and do the work for you, or such that you don't even actually have to go to the farm. There are actually ways of farming where you do not have to literally own a piece of land and dig into the soil. People have used buckets to farm. People have used gunias to farm. Why not implement such easy resource activities, rather, or projects, and empower someone else so that they're able to take this on? Because yet again, we have very many people who cannot afford land in this country. And as we know, real estate and the whole property business, our bubble hasn't burst. So unfortunately, that's not something that everyone can delve into. However, getting a bucket for them, getting gunias, a box of gunias, and giving to people so that they can use them to farm, and teaching them how to do it on their own. In that way, yes, you won't have gotten your hands dirty, but you'll have helped very many other families, 1, earn a living, and 2, be able to feed themselves without depending on other people to give them 10 shillings here and there every day.
I write that. Teach a man how to fish.
Yes.
Salon, would you like to add on top of that?
I think for agribusiness, I think I'd fall into the category of people who
who are like, no. Then how?
I think developing patience as a virtue, because if you're going to farm, I believe you have to plant and then wait for the harvest period. And for most of us youths, we like things instantly, like you want fast
instant
things.
gratification.
Yes, so like she said, knowledge is power. So the more we educate, I think the more people will take it up, because if I had more information on how to do it, like she said, using gonias and stuff, I think I'd take a proactive role and do it.
If you had.
Sorry?
If you had, you would do that.
Yes, yes.
So what's stopping you right now?
More.
If you were educated more. So it's the whole point of information. But really, we are a digital generation. Google is your friend. I mean, do we feel as if we, as young people, those are the excuses that we make? And then I like what you also said. We want instant gratification. I want to plant today, I want to reap tomorrow. Diana, your thoughts?
I'd say one of the things is that we are all racing with time. That's why we want instant gratification, as you said. So I'd say the education part of it, we should be looking at long run, the kind of something that will be sustainable. as the Sustainable Development Goals are. So it's not about the education part of it would come in and tell us that, you know, it's not about instant gratification, but sustainable. In the end, you farm, it will take some time for you to get to the harvest period, but at the end of it all, you can earn money, you can feed other families, and at the end of it all, you have grown something in the world, just as Jerry said.
But it's not only just a matter of agribusiness. It's making sure that people have access to safe and nutrition food and ending malnutrition as well. Jerry, for you, your thoughts on ending malnutrition, and the reason why I say this is because malnutrition is based on nutrition, making sure that you're getting the right kind of health and nutrients in your food. But then, this being Africa and this being Kenya, we're seeing a rise in fast food branches. So today here you are and you're being told, go home, you know, eat lunch at home or packed lunch food, make sure it's healthy. But then your friends are like, let's head over to KFC. You know, so there's that double-edged sword right there. What are your thoughts on that when it comes to ending malnutrition amongst our generation?
Like you brought it up, and as we had said earlier, it's all about information and also education, because and something that came up yesterday in one of our panels, the panel on good health. And as they were speaking, they were talking about very many people do not know beyond the basic requirement or the bare minimum, because even for our education system, when you're learning science in, I believe it's class 5 or 6, when you're learning about your macronutrients, besides knowing carbohydrates, proteins, vitamins, what more? How are you able to track them such that you're not just eating for the sake, but you're also able to eat in a healthy way? If people are able to access this information, then it would be good. But yes, we have the internet, which people are able to do that. But how many people can access the internet? And even for those who have access, how many people are agile enough to actually log on and not log on to social media just for fun, but log on to better their lives? So I think it's information that needs to be driven into people. And again, the ripple effect. It starts with one person. Educate a few people and get them to take it out. Because even for us yesterday, we learned a few things that we didn't know. Personally, I didn't know that the new metric in terms of health is no longer BMI, but we have moved to waist-hip ratio. Right. And I believe that there are very many other people like us. So such forums is where you actually get to learn. And for us, I believe now it's our duty to now go and disseminate that information to others.
Okay, so we've talked about zero hunger and ending poverty. Let's jump to, I think, one of the ones that I'm quite passionate about, gender equality. All right, so the thing about this specific one is that you find people within our generation, and these are things that we've talked about endless time, and we showed these sad stories, but you find you are in a relationship and you're physically abused, right? And these are young people. But no, he loves me or she loves me, let me stay and endure this whole aspect. And we'll come to gender equality in terms of the economic aspect, but let's just start in terms of roles in society. Diana, what are your thoughts in terms of making sure that as young people we are pushing towards gender equality, be it within our own relationships, within the workforce, and so forth?
Well, I believe it's all about encouraging this person who's going through physical abuse, that they are worth more than what they're going through. Right. Many a times that you stay in the relationship, you stay in the abusive relationship because you feel like this is what I deserve. This is what this person will tell you how much you deserve what you're getting. So I think, just as she said, ripple effect. You encourage some people and then it goes on, and everyone else knows that, you know, you don't deserve being in a abusive relationship.
Continue, sorry.
In the work environment, as us guys are all leaders in the ISEC in Strathmore, right? Someone needs to know that you can do what you want to do. You know, if you want to be the leader in the company, you can do it. So it's all about the encouraging part of it.
The encouraging part of it. I'm going to target this question to you because you're the only gentleman in this conversation. Lesalon, the issue of gender equality, take a look at Malala Yousafzai. She was shot just because she was going to school. We've seen incidents as well where gender inequality is quite big. Education, as I've just given an example, and also in the workplaces where you and I could be have the same qualifications, but because you're a man, you get a better pay, a better salary. As men, How can men come into this conversation and help drive it? Because we cannot have gender equality and say, let's push for our women and our girls if we don't have men sitting at that table.
I think that as men, we should know there's self-love, self-worth. So knowing that she can do just... Sorry, let me rephrase what I wanted to say. So as men, I think we should just take up the active role of realizing that the society is changing and you can no longer look at the person next to you as less of a person than you are. And just from a humanitarian view, I believe all of us are equal. And now just as a man, you just need that self-acceptance, because most of the time it's an ego problem or a pride, so you feel like you're better than a woman just because maybe she's not as physically strong as you, and just along those lines. So as men, just a self-acceptance, things are changing and ladies can do just as much as men. Just as much or even more.
Yeah, it doesn't make you
less of a man, yes.
All right, Jerry is nodding in agreement. We're going to come back. We're taking a short break, but when we come back, I want to hear Jerry's comments on that. And we still have a lot more of the SDGs to go through and what role young people are playing, such as their decent work and economic growth. This is Weekend Express. We're taking a short break. Stay with us.